After 2 days of amazing matches during the first ever Pokemon Go World Championship, only 2 battlers remain. The currently undefeated godanhada from South Korea and DancingRob from Germany, which had to claw its way all the way through losers bracket to reach the grand finals. This means that DancingRob has to win 2 best of 5s in a row in order to beat godanhada and be crowned the first ever Pokemon Go World Champion, whereas godanhada only needs to win 1 of these. This is the story of the first ever Pokemon Go World Championships Grand Final.
And it will. DancingRob takes game number 1.
Lickitung, and DancingRob is up 2 games to 0 against godanhada. All right, godanhada finally taking his first win in this grand final sets.
And secures a win. We are all tied up.
I don't know, Altoria has some energy.
These trainers are closely closing in on a single Pokemon remaining in this match. It's going to be...
Oh, yes! He has this!
Oh, shit! Oh, my God!
And we have a bracket reset!
Notching that first win under his belt of this grand finals reset, godanhada takes the early lead.
Medicham in the red. These licks are super effective. It's coming down to the absolute wire, and the Medicham is the one that gets knocked out first.
The Alola Ninetales was inevitable there. I think DancingRob, another victory.
All it will take is one weather ball to tie the set up once again. 2 wins for godanhada, 2 wins for DancingRob. We are literally, finally, 1 game away from crowning our first world champion. Out
Yes,
on the
2
field.
shields.
Once again, it's a
The
nice
trick
Come on!
He knows that.
Sneak through there and take
Let's go!
Come on!
against this Altaria. Will it have the opportunity to throw one more charge move or will it?
Yeah!
DancingRob is your first ever Pokemon Go World Champion in the Masters Division.
The 2022 Masters Division World Champion from Germany, DancingRob.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Thor Tactical, who's like my best training partner.
Wow, what a final. What a championship, really. I don't think we could have asked for a better story. If you enjoyed that little intro I made, please leave a like, leave a sub. That took quite a lot of work. Also, give your congrats to Rob. What an impressive run, really. For the rest of the video, we'll be checking out all 10 battles in the grand finals in great detail. Starting off by taking a look at these teams, we got godanhada running the Shadow Walrein, Medicham, Altaria, Lickitung, Shadow Kanto Ninetales, and Registeel, and DancingRob running also Medicham and Lickitung, paired with Venusaur, Shadow Venusaur, Swampert, Alola Ninetales, and Galarian Stunfisk. We got some pretty unique picks on this squad. godanhada with the Altaria and the Kanto Ninetales, which you don't see that often, especially Altaria. I deemed it useless in this meta filled with Alola Ninetales, Registeel, and Walrein, which is hard wall Altaria. But godanhada has clearly made it work. He has constructed a team which is just very strong to a lot of Altaria's answers, especially Walrein, which is one of the biggest threats. godanhada is hard countering that ish with Lickitung, Medicham, and Registeel, and then checking it with his own Walrein and Kanto Ninetales. And this just really allows the Altaria to shine, which it actually might do against DancingRob's team as well. Rob has 2 Pokemon that hard lose to Altaria in the Venusaur and the Swampert. Medicham and Lickitung also don't do that well, but he does have two proper answers in Alolan Ninetales and Galarian Stunfisk, of course. But Godanhada does have some pretty good answers for these two. Both can lose to Kanto Ninetales and Registeel. Then Lickitung does very well against Alolan Ninetales, and Medicham does very well against Galarian Stunfisk. So, if Godanhada can cover that Altaria well, it could do a lot of work. Now, DancingRob's unique pick in the Shadow Venusaur. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll see that much play. I love Shadow Venusaur. I could talk about it for hours, but we are not gonna do that since, well, it's basically hard countered by Altaria, Kanto Ninetales, and Warren isn't great either, and the other matchups are neutral at best. So if you want to hear me talk about Shadow Venusaur for hours, subscribe. Plenty of that to come, since I ran it in my own last chance qualifier team as well. DancingRob's Medicham is looking very good though. Godon is not running any ghosts, which means Medicham doesn't have any hard counters. Of course, the Altaria does fine. The Lickitung does fine because DancingRob's Medicham is running counter Ice Punch and Psychic, so he can hit the Ice Punches on Altaria. But because he is not running Power Punch or Dynamic Punch, the Lickitung does become a little worse, as well as Registeel. Medicham does generally beat Registeel, but since you're not running a fighting charge move, Registeel will actually get to 2 Zap Cannons before you can counter it down, which means he will lose the 0 Shield. But overall, still, I expect DancingRob to bring Medicham every single game, just because it has play versus everything in Godanhada's team. Besides that, Galarian Stunfisk will probably be brought out very often for DancingRob, just to take care of that Altaria Registeel core and the Altaria Kanto Ninetales core. It's not a hard counter to those cores because both Kanto Ninetales and Registeel have a ton of play versus it, but it's really the only Pokemon that can handle that well. From Godon, I'm expecting a lot of Altaria Registeel or Altaria Ninetales, because those are just very solid core. But if you want to play it a little safer, something like Lickitung Registeel or Medi Lickitung would be very solid too. Anyway, let's get into these battles. I have sped them up like 50% just so we can get through them a little faster, but I will pause at points if needed. Here we go. We see DancingRob with a Galarian Stunfisk lead into Godanhada's Registeel. Godanhada actually running a very interesting team comp with Registeel, Lickitung, and Warren. Triple weak to the Medicham, but as I said earlier, both Registeel and Lickitung have a ton of play versus Medicham, so it's kind of just hoping to take out the Medicham with like 1.5 his Pokemon, and then hope the other finding weak Pokemon can sweep. This is definitely not the lead Godanhada wanted though. Galarian Stunfisk does outpace to this next Earthquake, which should knock out the Registeel here. DancingRob does have a shield down, but has a very healthy Galarian Stunfisk in the back, which is not great for Godanhada. Brings in his best Galarian Stunfisk answer at this point, which is the Warren, which DancingRob responds to with the Medicham. DancingRob also still has Alolan Ninetales in the back, which also counters Warren, which is why he felt so safe switching it in. I think if DancingRob had like a Swampert in the back, he would have just stayed in with the Galarian Stunfisk and chipped Warren. But since he had two better answers in the Medicham and Alolan Ninetales, you switch it in, lure out the Lickitung right here, and now you just take out the Lickitung with your Medicham and Galarian Stunfisk probably, and then you hope that your Alolan Ninetales just... Anyway, Lickitung takes out DancingRob's Medicham at this point. Probably gonna bring in the... I was expecting the Galarian Stunfisk here actually, but DancingRob just wants to get the Charm down, was hoping for a catch on this Galarian Stunfisk too. Doesn't get it, takes the Body Slam damage, charms down the Lickitung, and now can he Charm down before the Earthquake? He should easily be able to do that. That seals the deal for game number 1. Godon ran a pretty risky line in game 1, being triple weak to counter, but I think it would have actually worked out for him if there was only like a Medicham on DancingRob's team to counter the Warren, because both Registeel and Lickitung have a ton of play versus it. But then there was also an Alolan Ninetales in the back to counter that. Warren which just put Godon in a very, very rough spot. I think Godon is expecting the Alolan Ninetales to come again, so he brings the Kanto Ninetales. And I think DancingRob might have been expecting that too, so he brings the Swampert in the back this time. Doesn't have the Swampert aligned where he wants it to, but he might be able to realign it later. I want you to pay attention to Godon's line here, by the way. It's Kanto Ninetales, Registeel, Lickitung. Swampert lead would absolutely crush this line. it will be impossible, I would say impossible for Godin to ever beat Swampert lead with this line, which if you've been following this channel for longer, you know we call that an ABA strat, where you're double weak to something in the lead, and that I absolutely hate it when players do this, because you just have no flexibility if you lose the lead. But this time it's a little different. I think this is actually brilliant line calling from Godin. Because Godin knows DancingRob likes to play his games pretty safe. And the safest team on, or the safest Pokemon on DancingRob's team is Medicham. Meaning that he's extremely likely to either lead Medicham, since it's a safe lead, or pivot to Medicham, since it's a safe pivot. With energy, Medicham has play basically everywhere. If you use Medicham lead, godanhada's team is fine, because Kanto Ninetales does okay there. If DancingRob goes with Medicham pivot, that'd be fine too, because with a Medicham pivot, DancingRob has to lead something that either beats Altaria or is kind of neutral against Altaria, because you really don't want to switch your Medicham into an Altaria. Medicham is kind of fine versus Altaria. You bring it out versus something else, and Altaria switches in, because then you have a little energy lead. But if you have to switch it into it, it's not great. So leading Swampert for DancingRob is like incredibly risky, because he wouldn't really have a good save switch. You don't want to lead Swampert, have Medicham in the back, lead into Altaria, and then have to switch into your Medi. It's not something DancingRob wants to do, and Godin is calling it. And I think that is super, super smart. Anyway, enough rambling. We're just gonna head into this battle. Galarian Stunfisk into the Kanto Ninetales lead. This is okay-ish for Galarian Stunfisk. Obviously, DancingRob wants to realign his Swampert here, so just gonna Rock Slide and then dip into the Medicham. Pretty nice for Rob that the Rock Slide comes out quicker than the Weather Ball there, since only 5 Metals for a Rock Slide and 6 for a Weather Ball, so he's able to safely dip out. This is also fine for Godin though. Godin running double weak to counter in the back once again, so is very glad to see the Medicham right here. Might want to have to save, or might want to save the Kanto Ninetales here though for the Galarian Stunfisk, because you're close to Weather Ball, but instead actually lets it go to the Psychic here. Probably gonna get a nice farm on the Lickitung now, right? This is a good amount of energy, might be close to a Power Whip for this matchup, which would come in very useful against either the Swampert or the Galarian Stunfisk. Rob brings in the Galarian Stunfisk here. Godin gonna go for the Power Whip. Rob actually hard switching out of Medicham too, didn't let it get farmed out. Knows the switch timers are a bit misaligned, so could lock in his Stunfisk first, lick them for a little bit at least, and just didn't want the Medicham to get farmed down. Goes for the Earthquake here, which gets shielded by Godin. Godin really wants to get to another Power Up, a Body Slam here. Rob just wants to get the chip in here, put the Lickitung into a range where Hydro Cannon will knock out. I think it's smart, but will maybe get licked down here. Doesn't, but will get caught on. Godanhada makes a very good switch into the Registeel here to take the Rock Slide. Rob still a shield up though with a Swampert. This is looking pretty good. It's a Shadow Swampert though, which means the Focus Blast will almost knock out. So Rob will have to shield this up to be safe. Now though, you can't stack up an Earthquake and a Hydro Cannon. So what Rob actually does here is throws a Hydro Cannon, and then he's gonna double up on Hydros. He gets it right before Godin gets to his Focus Blast. This will knock out the Reggie, and then he will win the CMP tie against this Lickitung. You actually saw Godin press the Body Slam there, and you might be confused. Why did Godin press the Body Slam there? It's actually another extremely high level play. Of course, Body Slam wouldn't knock out the Swampert. If you want any chance of beating the Swampert, you have to Power Whip it. But Godin was expecting DancingRob to switch in the Medicham there to catch the move. And in that case, you do want to throw Body Slam. That is not what ended up happening, but I think it would have had if DancingRob would not have had the Hydro Cannon there, it would have had a very high likelihood of happening, which is why Godin did it. So it might look a bit weird at first, but it's actually, I would say, a very smart play by Godin there. Doesn't win him the game, but I respect that he tried until the end. Next match, we see Godin sticking to his guns with Kanto Ninetales lead once again into Rob's Alolan Ninetales. Wasn't expecting that to happen a second time in a row, but gets caught on a bad lead. Pivots to Medicham once more, but Godin is prepared and chips it with some Embers and gets a shield with the Weather Wall before bringing in his own Metacham, this is a good play from Godin. He could also have brought in Lickitung to like lick down, but wants to use the Metacham here so that it doesn't get aligned to the Alolan Ninetales later, which of course is a pretty good answer for the Medi. So at the very least, he gets some use out of it here. Takes out a bunch of the health with that Psychic, and now should be able to farm down. Not before the Metacham reached an Ice Punch, but this shouldn't knock out Godin. Counting very, very well, knows it can't be a Psychic. Lets the Ice Punch go, farms down the Metacham, now is a Psychic loaded for the Alolan Ninetales, which will do a decent chunk here. Not that it's really gonna matter, that Kanto Ninetales is such a hard counter to the Alolan Ninetales, but, you know, every bit of chip does help in the end game. Rob just gonna instant switch Galarian Stunfisk into the Kanto Ninetales, but the Lickitung comes out. Now, technically, Galarian Stunfisk does beat Lickitung, but Lickitung usually leaves it very, very low. Rob goes for the bait there, which, I mean, I don't know. I think Lickitung generally doesn't have to shield there, so Godin actually doesn't. But I think it's still a good bait from DancingRob, since usually these bulky Pokemon like to shield first because it's a very low risk shield call. Since most opponents would just throw the Earthquake there. But this time Godin actually no shields, just wants to save shields for the Kanto Ninetales, which makes a ton of sense. Honestly, Rob's only win con there was Godin going down shields, so he went for it, but it just didn't happen. Very rough comp for Rob there. He's gonna get taken out by this Weather Ball right here. Rob has decided he is tired of that Kanto Ninetales, so he's bringing his 3 best checks to it in the Metacham, Galarian Stunfisk, and Swampert. But I think Godanhada might have predicted that. He's left Kanto Ninetales on the bench and brought Altaria to cover for Rob's answers. Now, of course, Rob does have Galarian Stunfisk as an Altaria answer, but unfortunately for him, the Metacham is Atlantic Altaria now, which isn't great. And he has to stay in as well, since, well, Swampert does very bad against Altaria too. So this is kind of where you want to see the Altaria, since at least you can get some shields and health down, but you're not gonna win. At this point, DancingRob's only win condition is hoping there's like a Kanto Ninetales and a Registeel in the back for the Swampert to deal with, but unfortunately for Rob, Godin has brought 2 other things that are pretty good against Swampert as well. So this is not looking too good, but maybe he can do it. Lickitung comes in from Godin at this point. Rob is forced to stay in there basically, since Swampert doesn't have a great matchup here either. Just gonna go straight for the Earthquake, not expecting the shield. That was the right call. Godin doesn't end up shielding. Godin running an extremely bulky Lickitung here. Should be able to survive both Earthquakes and maybe even get the 2 Power Whips. This is why if you're running a Lickitung, you want as high rank as possible, since only the highest rank can do this. Survives the Earthquake, should be able to reach another Power Whip, just barely. This will put the Stunfisk to deep red. Now the Altaria is already in a range where a Hydro knocks out, so DancingRob gets some energy here and hopes that he can Hydro the Altaria to feigning, and then hope that he can deal with whatever's in the back. But unfortunately for Rob, it ends up being a Metacham, which is probably just impossible. The only win condition for Rob here would have been if it was Registeel or Kanto Ninetales, but I think Godanhada making a smart team complete here and just not bringing anything weak to Swampert, which just makes it very rough for Rob here. Gonna go for another Hydro, just trying everything he can, but at this point the Metacham will counter down both the Swampert and the Stunfisk. That is game. We are tied 2-2. Godin played their lineup extremely weak to Alolan Ninetales in the last game with the Altaria lead and the Metacham in the back, so he's daring DancingRob to lead it this time, and he's leading Kanto Ninetales to catch it. But DancingRob might see it coming, doesn't bring the Alolan Ninetales at all. Instead, brings a lineup triple, checking the Kanto Ninetales with Galarian Stunfisk, Metacham, and Swampert. Doesn't have the alignment he wants at this point, since you'd rather have the Swampert on this Kanto Ninetales, but this is really not too bad of a position for either one, really. Rob can Rock Slide here, probably get a shield and some chip damage, and unlikely switch to Metacham. This time, Godin actually lets it go. We had a situation last time where Godin shielded the first Rock Slide. This time he lets it go, probably expecting the Swampert in the back again from Rob. So the shield is better used later in the game on a Hydro. So, of course, Godin brings in the Altaria here, since the best answer for Metacham. Throws the Sky Attack, just one turn for the Ice Punch, like usual. Rob definitely gonna reach another Ice Punch here, which should warrant a shield from Godin, who really wants the switch advantage here. Probably, again, expecting back onto Lickitung there. Throws another Sky Attack, one turn for the Ice Punch. Godin really goaded with this timing. It's awesome to see. Rob not waiting out the timer there. The very important thing to point out, he's not waiting out the timer, knowing that the Altaria is still locked in for a little bit, so he can farm up energy here safely before the Kanto Ninetales switches into Snipe. Talk about Snipe. Godin tries to get off the Weather Ball here on the Galarian Stunfisk, switches in, taps the move, but Rob threw the Rock Slide right as that happened, so he's able to fire it right before the Kanto Ninetales can. Godin decides to no shield here, letting go of all of that energy, and now it's all up to his Lickitung, which actually might be able to do this since Swampert versus Lickitung is not the best, especially Shadow Swamp. Even if you no-shield this Body Slam here, Swampert does not reach 3 Hydro Cannon. So even though that wasn't a Power Rip, Rob shields it up, which is not ideal, since now they got to the Power Rip before, well, you're able to get to 3rd Hydro Cannon, but you would have died anyway. You don't get to 3 Hydro Cannons right. Even better, or even worse for Rob actually, better for Godin, he no-shielded the Hydro, which means Rob can only throw another Hydro. If he shielded that Hydro, Rob would have been able to get to the Earthquake, which would have put the Lickitung much lower into a range where a Rock Slide would knock out. At this point, Rob will need to go for the Earthquake to knock it out. He's going to over-farm her, actually, because he knows he needs more energy to knock out the Altaria. Is it enough, though? The Altaria does have a little bit of energy stored. Does Rob get to the Rock Slide? He gets there just one turn before the Altaria gets to the Sky. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot of just small things adding up to this victory here. Not waiting out the switch timer from Rob was brilliant, so he could get more farm. Throwing the Sky Attack on the Stunfisk, by the way, was very smart from godanhada as well. That not only stalled the switch timer, but also brought the Stunfisk into a range where the Fire Weather Ball from Kanto Ninetales would have knocked out if it had fired. Which it didn't, because Rob threw the Rock Slide right before the Kanto Ninetales switched. And then at the end of this game, that just one Mudshot overfarm on the Lickitung is what gave Rob the victory in the end. If he would have not done that and just thrown the Earthquake straight away, he would have lost that. So really well played there by both players. Rob takes the first best of 5, resets the bracket, which means whoever wins this next best of 5 takes the crown. They've now played 5 games against each other with these teams, so they've probably picked up on some tendencies with what their opponent likes to run and how they like to play. In this next set, I expect some riskier lines, especially from Rob, because if he's been playing it very, very safe, he might switch it up now with something risky to just try to hardcall whatever his opponent is bringing now that he has more info on it. Godon has been playing pretty risky from the start, so I expect him to just play similarly. In this first game, Godon picks up an amazing lead with the Kanto Ninetales versus Rob's Alolan one, which Rob responds to with the Medicham, of course. The Alolan Ninetales decides to stay in a little bit, and then switches into Registeel, which might seem weird at first because counters, of course, are super effective, but all the charge moves are resisted. And if this Reggie is able to get to a move or two, Medicham is bye-bye. Zap Cannon comes in. This doesn't knock out, but does put the Medicham very low. Medicham will be able to reach another Psychic Care. DancingRob re-farming up to just before the Focus Blast. Very good timing by DancingRob here. Does this knock out the Registeel? It barely doesn't. Godon hangs on, gets to the Focus Blast. Does Rob shield this up? He does. I think Rob at this point really wants to get a shield down, because Galarian Stunfisk with 2 shields versus Kanto Ninetales is not good. You really need 1 shield down at least, so you can hit with a Rock Slide, take the shield, and then Earthquake it death. But yeah, that doesn't end up happening. He's now shields down, and I don't think he's even gonna be able to reach the move. Yeah, he doesn't reach Psychic, gets to the Ice Punch instead, but Godon counting super well, lets it go, and now DancingRob is in a whole world of problems. Shield down against a Kanto Ninetales with a bunch of energy. This is not good. He lets the first one go, knowing it's not an overheat, and then I think he's even forced to let the second one go. At this point, your only hope is to bring in your Kanto or Alolan Ninetales against this, charm it down, and then hope you can also charm down whatever is in the back. But at this health, that is basically nothing. Even if it was the meta champ, it's not possible. Especially now that it's not meta champ, it's Walrein, and Walrein will just get the earthquake. Godon making a good read there, making a really nice play, bringing in the Registeel versus that meta champ, basically making all the meta champ's energy useless, and then using the Kanto Ninetales to sweep. Godanhada has been playing ABA teams all day, and DancingRob says, what you can do, I can do too, and he leads Lickitung with Galarian Stunfisk in the back, his own ABA line, weak to counter, which unfortunately he ends up leading to. Now, DancingRob's meta champ usually loses to Lickitung because it's running Ice Punch Psychic, but because Godanhada's meta champ has Power Punch, it's actually a winning matchup for the meta champ, but it's close, which is fine. However, Godanhada is also running double weak to fighter in the back, so he kind of has to save his meta champ. So instead of going for the Power Punch, which wins him the matchup, he goes for Psychic to just chip the Lickitung a bunch, and then bringing his own Lickitung, probably hoping to lure out DancingRob's meta champ so his Registeel can have free reign in the back. But instead, DancingRob decides to go into Stunfisk, his weakest link to Godanhada's meta champ, just to get it out of the way. And, well, this is still a very fine matchup as well. Lickitung gonna go for another power. This definitely doesn't knock out, and he'll be able to get to another Earthquake. Sumi throws. He could also try to go for a bait there. Actually, wow, he throws the Earthquake right before Lickitung is able to get the body slam. Really nice timing by Rob there. Takes out the Licky. This Medi is gonna farm now. Actually, kind of dangerous, because the Registeel, as we saw before, has a ton of play for his Medi. Wow, wait, we gotta revert that. We gotta revert. Rewind. Oh my goodness, what happened there? Okay, so DancingRob doesn't want his Stunfisk to get farmed down by the Medi, so he switches in his own, and Godanhada just instant switches into Registeel, probably expecting the Lickitung to. This is not, but I think even with the Medi, this is fine, because now you can get the Zap Cannons off early, and then you can bring in your own meta champ versus DancingRob's meta champ once it's debuffed properly. These Zap Cannons do the most amount of damage of any move, so DancingRob smartly shields them up. Yeah, this really isn't too bad of a matchup for Registeel. Honestly, I was expecting DancingRob to just go for the full farm down now, because Godanhada reaches a Zap Cannon either way, but decides to go for the Psychic instead, getting the defense fall, which is actually, that defense fall is actually not good for Rob, because now he gets less farm on this meta champ. It will take less counters to take out the Registeel now, which is not going to end up mattering, because I think Godan would have been able to switch if it wasn't for defense Rob. But because of that, they get it. He switches out of his meta champ now to clear a debuff and to get off this body slam with his Lickitung. Godan smartly no shields because his Psychic does do more damage, but because of that, Lickitung will be able to farm down. What a game. GG's. Rob seems to be calling that Altaria is going to make a comeback, so it brings both of his hardest counters to the thing in Galarian Stunfisk and Alolan Ninetales, and it seems he was right, as Godan is leading his Altaria into the Galarian Stunfisk. Absolutely horrible for Godan, so instant switches into Lickitung, which Rob responds to with Meta Champ. Now, Rob knows that he's gonna lose this matchup, but that is completely fine with him. If he wanted switch advantage, he would have stayed in with the Galarian Stunfisk a little bit, first the Lickitung, thrown an Earthquake, and then dipped into Meta Champ. But he doesn't need switch advantage. He has two hard counters for Altaria in Galarian Stunfisk and Alolan Ninetales. At this point, it really doesn't matter what ends up on the Altaria. It's gonna faint. It's gonna faint no matter what. Anyway, brings the Galarian Stunfisk into the Lickitung at this point. I'm sure Rob was happy that he at least got a shield down on the Lickitung though, because even if it's Kanto Ninetales now, the Galarian Stunfisk is in good shape to beat it. Gonna build up a ton of energy, throw the Rock Slide at 99, now close to an Earthquake too, to throw on whatever comes in now. In comes the Meta Champ here, which he just throws an Earthquake into, and the Alolan Ninetales is ready. Godanhada brought the lineup ABA weak to a Charm again, and even though DancingRob didn't end up leading Charm, he did get his Alolan Ninetales aligned to both the Meta Champ and the Altaria. Here you see the dark side, the unfortunate side of ABA alliance. Sometimes you're just gonna get completely Web. This next game, DancingRob switches it up. He's been leading strong to Altaria every single game this set. So he feels safe leading the Swampert, something he hasn't done before because, like I said, it is incredibly risky for Rob. Since when you lead Swampert, Metachamp pivot is just much worse than with any other lead, basically. And Rob really doesn't have any other mons to safely pivot to. But since he's led so strong to Altaria, and Godan led Altaria in the previous game, he wasn't expecting it. So he feels safe doing it now. And wow, he probably regrets it because he faces off against an Altaria leader. Forced to switch into the Metachamp here, which of course can get to the Ice Punches, but this is far from my. Gonna throw an Ice Punch here right before Godan gets to the Sky Attack. Will do a good chunk, but as we saw before, definitely doesn't do enough to knock out the bird. Godan, again, with just the impeccable timing, throws one turn before Metachamp gets to the next Ice Punch. It's so risky. It's really so risky because it's not hard to like over tap on one turn moves. Like you can easily just miss the charge move by like a hair and you do one extra Dragon Breath, and instead of, you know, throwing in the middle of the counter, you CMP tie, you lose CMP, and suddenly you're down in sheer disadvantage instead of throwing Wrap for the Ice Punch. So I really respect that play. But yeah, Rob ends up letting the Metachamp go, does one charm, brings in Swampert, probably hoping to farm down, but the Altaria gets to a move. At this point, Rob is trying anything to get some sort of advantage, but it isn't working out. Even worse, Godan does have the Licky Tongue, which, you know, just comes into whip Swampert. DancingRob, perfect track of energy though, throws the Hydro Cannon before the whip, but Licky Tongue, being extremely bulky, survives, gets to another power repair or gets to a power repair, knocks out the Swampert. At this point, there's nothing Alolan Ninetales can do, since it will be staring down this Cantonian variant. Yeah, this is over. We get into another game 5. Game 5, or actually game 10 at this point, is where the mind games are the hardest. Godan has now led Altaria twice in a row, which would make you think he doesn't do it again, right? That'd be wild, but Godan thinks otherwise. Actually leading the Altaria, probably expecting the opponent to think that he wouldn't dare to do it again, but DancingRob thinks otherwise. Runs a line he ran previously with his two hardest Altaria answers in Galarian Stunfisk in the lead, and Alolan Ninetales in the back, and a Metachamp in the middle. This lead looks pretty good for DancingRob so far. But if Godan can get into a position where the Kanto Ninetales is 2 shields up, he can sweep the line. This game definitely not over from the start. Let's see how it plays out. Godan, of course, switches into the Licky Tongue. We see DancingRob switch into his Metachamp here. Just like the previous game, he doesn't care about switch. He just wants to probably get one shield down and then sweep with either Galarian Stunfisk or Alolan Ninetales. He does get a shield here. So far, it's basically a replay from the last time we saw it. Can Godan just throwing one turn before the Ice Punch. It is beautiful to see. Gonna go in with the Galarian Stunfisk right now for DancingRob. DancingRob, as you can see, he had the Earthquake already, but decided not to throw. Even the Rock Slide already decided not to throw because he just wants energy. He wants as much energy as possible so he can outpace a potential Kanto Ninetales in the back. Now, this is a moment where godanhada could make a different decision than he's gonna make. He's gonna actually switch into Kanto Ninetales right here, which makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. It is your answer to Galarian Stunfisk at this point. But I think if he calls the Alolan Ninetales in the back, he should go in Altaria and then make the Stunfisk waste a bunch of energy, because the Stunfisk does need to hit 3 Rock Slides to take out the Altaria, and in that period, you can get to like a Sky Attack, you can get a bunch of Dragon Breaths, put it into a range where you can probably Ember down the Galarian Stunfisk and the Alolan Ninetales. But that's a very hard read. If it's like a Swampert in the back, which godanhada might be expecting here, going in Kanto Ninetales is the play. So that is actually what he does. He ends up thinking for a while, switches in the Kanto Ninetales, and this basically seals the deal for Rob. He throws a Rock Slide here, At this point, I was expecting Rob to just throw an Earthquake, because he can reach the Earthquake, but he actually ends up going for Rock Slide, which is, I think, very smart, because this makes the game so much safer. He just does the Rock Slide, the Continentals lets it go, and now they can Charm down with the Alola Ninetales, shield up whatever the Ninetales throws, doesn't even get to a second move, will reach the Weather Ball here, and he still has a shield to spare, so at this point, it's Charm, 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 and, well, you know the rest. Rob takes the win, wins the World Championship right there. Once again, congrats to DancingRob for the win. It's so well deserved. You know, he actually ends up thanking me at the end for being his best practice partner, and, well, also only. But I really didn't deserve it. I only played for I only practiced with him for 1 hour. That's it. So this was all on him. He has been an amazing player for years. He's been high up on the Silph leaderboard for years. So this is really all he's doing. I couldn't think of a more deserving champion. So congrats. Congrats. Also, godanhada, amazingly played. Honestly, I'm not too fan of his playstyle, just because it's very risky lineups, which I don't enjoy. But man, he also had some amazing timing on his moves, out of this world. Good decision making, so very well played. Hope to see more of him as well. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. If you want more of these type of videos, make sure you like, subscribe. See you next one. Good luck to your battle stream.